listen, almost. But let me tell you, we have a treat today. We have been talking about African American life and culture, and history, coming out of Africa and coming to this country, and what we have achieved here. Today, we have an artist in our midst who has designed all of these spectacular windows that you see around you. And she's going to explain these windows to you, because what they do, the things that we've been reading about, you can see evidence of that in the stained glass windows or the faceted glass windows that you see here in this church. It starts with the creation over here and moves around, right? And then it goes all the way up to there.
I'm a former teacher with the ISD school district. I used to run, in fact, the African American Cultural Heritage Center for about 13 years. Okay. You know, I'm happy to have you all visit, though, because what I've designed these windows for specifically is for you, our children. Why? Because you're the hope of the future. You're the ones that are going to carry on the legacy of our people and our culture. You understand that? So all of this is designed specifically to do one important, very important thing, and that is to celebrate our heritage as African American people. Now, let me just say that these windows were specifically intended for an African American congregation. This church has about 3,000 to 4,000 people who attend, and they have a very dynamic pastor, Reverend Sam, who is a historical figure himself because he's been in the state legislature. He's very political as well as being a very dynamic pastor. And it is Reverend Holmes who approached me to take on this particular project of designing windows specifically for an African American church that celebrated and paid homage to a lot of our ancestors, and I'm going to let you all help me identify as we walk around. And so the windows celebrate both our biblical heritage as well as our historical heritage. And as Philip started to tell you, they're broken down into several categories. First of all, dealing with the creation. And I want you to go over here because these windows are kind of special. All over here.
Okay.
And then because you have to look up
so you can see.
at the top and the bottom. How many of you have heard of James Weldon Johnson? Who was he? Tell me who James Weldon Johnson is. Yes, he did. That's one of the things he did. What else did James Weldon Johnson do? He did something. Let me just say, he was also a composer. And he composed something for black people. And see, he and his brother, Rosamond, who was a musician, wrote our beautiful Negro national anthem. But he was also a poet and a novelist. And he put together, and let me go back, also a diplomat, and was the first executive secretary for the NAACP. What's the NAACP?
NAACP.
What is it?
National Association for American Culture.
Thank you. That's it. One of the books that he put together is really a collection of folk sermons by some of our early black ministers, except he put this in a poetic expression. And it's called God's Trombones. And in it there are 7 sermons capturing that tradition from our black preachers. One of the, well, actually the very first, is called The Creation. Have you ever heard it before? I can't read the whole thing because it's too long. But this is something that I used to act out when I was a little girl, in church and at school. And it kind of captures also the biblical text. But it begins, well, let's see. God, let's see where it starts here, because I'm confused. But it has to do right here with God looking out into space. And what does he say? He says, I'm lonely. I'm going to make me a world. And as far as God's eye could see, there was darkness that covered everything, blacker than 100 midnights down in the soft and sacred swamp. So he smiles. This is God saying in the next window. And he takes darkness in one hand and rolls it up on one side. And then he takes light in the other and rolls that and says, that's good. What do you think's happening in the third window? He's creating what?
He's creating
the sun, right? The moon, the stars, everything. The next one, he's creating
water.
the water. How did you know? There are 2 words. He's creating the waters, yeah. And there are stars in the sky. The next one, he's creating trees. These are the cypress trees. The next one, he is creating the animals. You can see an owl. See his hand? That's right. Yeah. What's happening in the next one? The last one at the top. Those are the fishes of the sea. They will come down below.
And then make a picture.
Well, actually, that's the last one. These first 2 windows in the 7 windows down below kind of celebrate our African heritage. And this is very interesting because I wonder how many of you realize that the fur rabbit, have you ever heard of fur rabbit?
Oh, yeah.
The fur rabbit tails came directly from Africa. And so this window gets into a lot of that particular folk heritage. And I have Anansi this time. There's the turtle. This is from the fur rabbit tails. And then we have the Sekofa bird. The next one, and I was trying to get Philip to find one for you. That's an antelope. And actually, he's called Chihuahua. Years ago, Mr. Collins, if you didn't know, that used to be the logo for the African Museum. Let me read something to you briefly. Hey, Chihuahua, champion farmer, come farm people. The field has become a competition. Come farm people before all of us. So it has to do with Harvest Festival and the whole thing of even Thanksgiving. When you think about his antlers, it looks like a cloud. Because actually in Africa, dancers wear these wonderful headdresses with the barber And when they go through the motion of doing the dance, they actually touch the earth and begin to clap. That's why we didn't get to bring one with me with it, so I could show you how they do that. So these two celebrate that wonderful heritage. The next one, God sits down and he kind of ponders, puts his hand on his head, and he says, there's still something wrong. What's missing? What do you think? Yeah, people. And so the next one, and I love this because Wilton Johnson said, like a mammy, and mammy means mother. Like a mother, he reaches down into a bed of clay and picks up some clay and begins to shape what? Man and woman. Man and woman. And then you can see the two little figures right here. So the next one, what does he do here? Breathes the breath of life into the two figures. You got it? That's the breath of life. The last one, he says, yeah. The very last one says, man and woman become living souls. So do you like those windows? Okay, let's look at the crucifixion window. Well, let me also say that this would be Old Testament. If you're going to get into the biblical part of it, that would be the Old Testament. Obviously has to do with who? Moses and the Passover. You see, he's holding a lamb, and one figure is holding unleavened bread. So that's very biblical. The next is a boat. And there are three figures in that boat.
You look at all three of them.
You have to look at all three to see the boat. You've got to stretch your imagination to see that boat. You see it? Okay. You probably haven't studied Egyptian history yet. Have you? This can be taken several ways. It can be Isis, Osiris, and Horus. But it can also become the Trinity. It can also be seen as a slave ship because we know historically that our people have arrived in this country through those terrible routes during the whole institution of slavery called what? The Middle Passage. And so that celebrates more than one thing. The next three windows have to do with Moses, and the last one is old Pharaoh. And what did Moses do? Yeah, he freed the slaves. And we're going to see two other Moses characters when we go upstairs, because we actually have several Moses in our particular heritage. The windows down below, children, have to do with crucifixion. And they're very important to me. So let's try, I know you're going to get a little antsy, but let's try to listen to this. I'm sorry, you can't see them now. Well, stand back. Stand back so you can see them.
I'm over here.
And the second cruciform figure is in the section.
Jordan.
See? I need to get back. Actually, there are three cruciform figures here. Yes. Yeah, the cross is composed of X's. You see the cruciform figure right here. And that one has a cord being pulled away. Now this is terrible history. But that the women in this particular window are pulling a lynching cord away from that thing. And so that celebrates again not only biblical history, but more important, our history and the lynching of all of our black men throughout the history of their existence in this country. The window on the end here, and let's see if we can understand what this is. Who wants to model this? What is this?
Over here because you talk.
Women who are about to prepare the Christ figure for burial. He hasn't descended cross in this window, but as you well know, there will be a descent from the cross. The three women are holding. Because I may come over and testify. If you look down below, I know you can't see it too well, but one of the women is holding a very beautiful cloth that's called a dinkra. This is an African textile that's used by really chieftains for burial of very important people, including chieftains. But each of those, are you listening? And I forgot to bring the calabash gourd with me. But each of those designs has a symbolic meaning. And it becomes a burial shroud or cloth for a deceased person. Well, obviously, the designs are made from something like a gourd called a calabash. And I'm sorry I forgot to bring the calabash. Actually, if I were doing the summer camp, I could teach you all how to do this by using water potato. Actually, those I made myself from using just a baked potato. Because you have to carve the design and then roll ink over it to make the textile design. But maybe one year we can do this. I know you can't see them too well. The other window on the other side of the cruciform has a mother and child. And here's the other cruciform figure, but then there's a very important black character in biblical history called Simon of Cyrene. Simon of Cyrene, we know historically was probably black. And the last one, so that's the cruciform section. Now we should go up into the back. Are there any questions? Yeah, actually, I see. Oh, I
Because they had to go like this.
I'll try to bring you all somewhere.
They had to go by like this.
This isn't the possible time, but I need this for my tours. A very important woman who became a Moses. What was her name? What did she do?
She made trips back. She made trips back and she freed slaves. It might be probably about 18 or 19 times.
Underground.
Real person.
Right. Well, that one, remember I said that one of the important things we wanted to do in this church was to celebrate some of our ancestors. Who are our ancestors?
People that lived before us.
Right. Who said that?
Me.
Beautiful. people who lived before us. And they don't all have to be famous people. They can just be our grandmas and granddaddies and great-great-grandmas, aunts, uncles. Those are our ancestors, and it's important that we remember them. They're part of our heritage, so that's Harriet Tubman. The next window has to do with the black, my great-grandfather, my dad's father. I could have brought it, I even have one of the flags. And believe it or not, he was stationed in Brownsville, Texas. He was just a teenager, hardly a teen, and came out of Pennsylvania with the group called the Black Troops from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But you see, he's holding a lantern. You can look at this later. Because those black soldiers, even though they fought in the war, they still assisted in helping our people holding a piece of a chain. What do you think that's saying?
Freedom is free.
Right?
Freedom.
Breaking the chains of slavery.
Freedom.
But it also has to do with something that all of us have to do, and that's why we have to know our history. We've got to break those psychological chains. Haven't been quilters, haven't done patchwork quilts, which are like stories in themselves. The first woman is just every woman, like I said, our grandmas, our aunts, our special people. The next one is a woman who was a great orator and wrote a wonderful book called, gave a lecture, Ain't I a Woman? Who was at this college in Florida. And she opened up there. All right, we move down. The next person of another culture that's reflected in this window is the founder of the Methodist Church, and that's Charles Wesley. But the others show Frederick Douglass, and then there's Richard Allen. You ever heard of Richard Allen?
Yes.
Richard Allen. And then there's some other people, Harry Hoosier, and there's another woman called Betty. The next window, these windows all deal with migration, a lot of different things. But actually, I say that these are the apostles who are leaving a train station to go and witness, and you're going to have to get up and look at this after I get through talking. And the witness,
I got it.
see, this is a train, no, just stay back right there. Foremost artist just died this past week, and I want Philip to show you some of his work, which is on exhibition right now. So anyway, they are coming into the inner city. That's where we live. We live in the inner city to witness a birth or a baby. It alludes not only to the birth of Jesus, but also the birth of all of the children. And so that's what we call a nativity scene. The next one, and there's a young boy in here that's wearing a t-shirt that says one. Why do you think I did that? No. Because every child that's born is special and is number one. He lives. It's celebrating the birth of Jesus. The last one has the apostles leaving that train station to go out into the world and spread the news. What do I mean by civil rights?
What?
One You're very smart, yes. Those windows are showing. Let's get the children settled up.
Okay, everybody come back down, okay? Come back down so you can hear.
Right there, and that could also be him.
You go get to each and every
Oh, right here. See the man with the hat?
Oh,
Go
Glasses?
get to every window. You don't want to
His
look
real name
too
is
far and
Malcolm
miss
Little.
something.
That was his
You
old
won't
one.
have this opportunity again.
When you change yourself, he
All
changed his
right,
name.
now you listening? Are you listening? Let me finish. These windows celebrate all those great marches for civil rights, including great march from what? Selma to Montgomery. Montgomery? Yes. Montgomery to Selma. It also, you will see Mandela and Bishop Tutu, which alludes to the African liberation marches for freedom. Then one of the most important, the March on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King. And I attended that march. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I did attend that great march, and that's something that will stick in my mind forever and a day.
Was it hot?
It was hot.
That's the first thing
Hot
I
and
said here.
sticky.
You didn't say it was hot and sticky?
I also went to the last one, when all of the kings, well, we call them the 3 Ks, KKKs were killed. And you know that was King Kennedy. You had a question? No, I went to the March on Washington. I didn't get to the Selma one. I wish I had.
She went to I have a dream.
Yeah, but I was at March on Washington. The next window is important for all of you because I felt that we needed to remember this whole thing of busing, the busing of children. That window deals with the education and the fact that our children had to be bused from pillar to post, had to get up at terrible times in the morning to be bused to school and picked up late at night. It's a terrible time.
Is that children like that getting beat down by police?
You can say that. And the police are there because that has to do with what? School integration also. Integration of schools. Our people have gone through an awful lot. The next window I consider a Last Supper, which would be biblical, but more importantly, it's straight out of the Civil Rights era. This is it's a lunch counter scene. It's when a lot of our young people went into these lunch counters and sat down for the first time, including Miss Collins. In fact, tell them about it briefly.
Well, fortunately, a classmate of Stokely Carmichael, I don't know if you know of Stokely Carmichael. We were at Howard University together at that time. And we would go down into Virginia and various places there to sit in and all. It was quite a devastating thing to do, but very traumatic, but it was a very exciting time for young African Americans at that time, because we were doing something that had never been done before, that our elders hadn't done before, and they were really afraid for us as well, but it was something that we felt was very necessary, and it was do or die. That was the whole idea of the way.
Well, that's what I consider that Last Supper, because it's here are all these young people sitting there trying to integrate these lunch counters and facing an unknown history out there in that street. You know, I mean, we can get into a lot of discussions about that. It's just as Philip said. The next window celebrates, doesn't necessarily look like her, but that's Miss Rosa Parks. And Rosa did come and see her window, and I had her for lunch at my house. And she enjoyed every bit of it, because what did Miss Rosa do? You know who Rosa Parks is?
Yeah, she had sat on the
What did
bus. She got arrested on the bus because she wouldn't give up her seat.
Yeah.
But she had planned it the night before. She had, they had planned it.
They had planned this, but so they did a boycott.
Very good.
They did a boycott until they finally got to what they wanted.
Right. Miss Rosa, I don't know how old Rosa must be in her 90s now. She's got to be close to 90, but she's still moving on. She's in Detroit. The next window, and you have to go up to see it, these are all those groups of college students. SCLC, that's the Southern Leadership Conference. I also put the Black Panthers up there. Because I'm big, very important. I don't even have to justify that. You know, there's a group that built on her head. The last window is a person that I acknowledge. Right. I acknowledge Malcolm X, and he's in this church, and he belongs here because he had to do with self-determination, self-affirmation, and he was the inner city.
That's what I was wondering. Is that right there?
You can if you want to.
Well, I'm just thinking about it.
Actually, that really is taken from one of the photojournalists.
I remember seeing a picture of it.
I don't want. I don't even know what either time.
But I like translation.
Everybody that's in my class at museum, come here.
It's very, very thick. It comes in all of these beautiful colors. Very thick. It's like medieval bottle glaze, but it's called faceted glass or Dalhate. It's called faceted because when the fabricator cuts the glass to fit within this epoxy, the epoxy is the black areas that holds everything in place. But what he does, he takes a hammer and actually breaks into the glass. And when he does that, the glass facets. And when it facets, it transmits light. The beauty of stained glass is the fact that we're dealing with, is magical, really. We're dealing with light that comes through this glass, and it's awesome to me. Now, some of the designs, if you go back to the museum, I think you have the creation and the civil rights section on view in the exhibit he's putting up right now. I had to do pencil designs in a 1-inch scale, which is an architect scale. They're very small, but you can see how the artist works to design something like this. Took an awful lot of research, a lot of study. You don't just go and start drawing stuff right away. You've got to read, you've got to research, you've got to dialogue with people.
Do your homework.
Do your homework. Through designing the round window that goes into his craft, which they broke around and then start building. Okay, I'm going to put the glass back.
So what we need to do is line up and quietly move forward.
Mr. Cox.
when we line up and get downstairs, Miss Lacy has something for you, okay?